Hi everyone, this is Cassie from Desert Sun Yoga, and today I'm going to lead you through a restorative yoga practice. In this practice, I'll be using a bolster and a set of 2 blocks. If you don't have these items, don't worry about it at all, but I will suggest that you grab either a kind of a stack of blankets or maybe 2 pillows that you can stack on top of one another to resemble a bolster. Okay, so as you get ready, as you put your things together, we're going to start lying on your bolster. So I'm going to pull my bolster up towards the lower part of my back, and then I'm going to bring my blocks kind of in line with my mid-thigh area so that I can bring the soles of my feet together as I lie back. Allow my thighs to rest on the blocks. Allow your head to relax, arms open out to the sides. Close your eyes. If you feel any discomfort or pain through your lower back with your knees wide as mine are, you can always plant your feet onto the floor, knees point to the ceiling, and that should be a bit more comfortable. You can also opt to stretch your legs out long for more of a Shavasana position. Remember, in our restorative practice, we don't have necessarily any goals. This is time for just you to notice each breath that you take. If you're practicing at home, you might notice different distractions come your way throughout the practice. And that's normal. That's okay. But for the time being, see if you can acknowledge those distractions and come back to this time, this space that you have set aside for yourself. And recognize that there's probably nothing so pressing for the next 45 or 60 minutes that you can't just take this time for yourself. If you haven't already, begin to breathe in and out through just your nose. And perhaps you notice a bit of sound at the back of your throat, especially on your exhale. And remember that you don't have to work so hard to inhale. You don't need to suck air in. And in fact, the way our lungs work is that when your lungs are empty, the atmospheric pressure outside of your body naturally fills in the space in your lungs. The best thing that you can do to take a deep breath is try to help create space for your lungs to fill as you can. Try to make sure you completely empty your lungs on your exhale. Might notice that after just a few quiet breaths, your body already feels a bit more relaxed. Your mind feels a little bit more at ease. In this space, take a quick scan of your body. Try to notice all of your joints, your ankles, at your knees, at your hips, fingers, elbows, shoulders, neck. Notice if anything feels particularly tight or cranky today. And just keep a bit of extra attention on those areas throughout class. Notice if there's anywhere in your body you can actively relax, perhaps the space between your eyebrows, your cheeks, and your jaw. Try to relax your glutes. And check in with yourself emotionally. If you've maybe felt light today, perhaps something is weighing on you. And again, just take note. Try not to hold on to the feeling one way or another. And take another breath. Bring your hands to the backs of your thighs and use your hands to lift your legs up. Feet plant down onto the floor. Knees point up to the ceiling if they weren't already. And tuck your chin to your chest and very carefully start to peel your torso all the way up. Good. We're going to take a really passive twist. So I'm going to put my blocks off to the side. Let both of your knees fall all the way over to the right and try to come just onto your right hip or onto your right glute. You'll turn your torso to face towards your bolster or your stack of pillows or blankets and lie down. Rest on your right cheek. And your knees don't have to be even here. Your eyes can close. Perhaps you flip your palms face up. And notice the difference in your breath now. As part of your body is compressed in a different way, your body will compensate and create space in other areas to help allow your lungs to fill. And take 2 more deep breaths right here. Begin to plant your hands onto your mat. Press into your hands very carefully. Lift your torso up again. Good. We'll do the other side, and I'm just going to flip around here. So you'll eventually want to come onto your left glute. Knees fall over to the left, so your right hip is stacked on top of your left. You turn to face your bolster. Let your hands come down to the floor. You should breathe on your left cheek as you relax here in your twist. Palms can face up to the ceiling. Again, noticing the difference in your breath here. Maybe this side it feels a little bit easier to fill. Perhaps it's a bit more challenging. Give yourself 2 more deep breaths here. Begin to plant your hands down onto the floor and very carefully peel yourself all the way up. Ditch your bolster or your pillows off to the side for a moment. Begin to plant your feet onto the floor in front of you. Grab onto the backs of your thighs. Roll yourself all the way down onto your back. You might need to adjust your feet so that they're comfortably planted on the floor here. Allow your arms to relax down along the sides of your body. Close your eyes. And take notice of any subtle differences you might feel here as compared to when you were in this position on your bolster. Does it feel a bit easier, lighter to take deep breaths here? Has tension started to fade away in any areas of your body? Hug both knees in towards your chest. Don't use your hands though. Try to keep your middle back pressed down against the floor. Think belly button to spine. Hug your rib cage in towards the midline of your body. And then let your hips sway side to side. Just try to press your back against your mat here or against the floor. Give yourself a little massage. And pause in the center. Again, no hands, so you'll use a little bit of core strength. Your knees will go in the opposite direction of one another as you start to take big circles with your legs. So we're trying to loosen up your hips here a little bit. You might hear some cracking and popping. That's totally normal. It's fine. Take your circles in the other direction. And pause in the center. Stretch your legs up to the sky, but let your knees stay really soft. Stretch your arms up to the sky. Let your elbows and wrists stay really soft. Take 2 big breaths here. Spread your fingertips out as wide as they can go. Try to spread your toes out as wide as they can go. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Might be just a little bit easier to wiggle your fingers than your toes. That's okay. Just try. And pause. Start to take circles with your wrists and ankles. Go in one direction. And again, you might hear some and cracking here. Totally normal. You can think of your joints like a sponge and think about what happens to a sponge when you leave it out. No water, no movement. It just gets kind of tight. When you let your joints move, get moisture in them, they're a bit happier. Take your circles in the other direction now. I know it might get kind of obnoxious to take circles for so long, but it is good for you. One more breath. And pause. Give yourself a big inhale. As you exhale, bend your knees, bring your heels by your glutes, bend your elbows, fingers by your ears. Inhale, stretch everything back to the ceiling. Exhale, bend your knees, bend your elbows. Inhale, reach everything back to the ceiling again. Exhale, bend. Inhale, extend, keep going. As you do this, try to press the middle part of your back against the floor so you're working your core just a little bit. Two more. Just getting some blood circulating here. Really good, especially if you've been sitting down all day. Finish with your arms and legs reaching up to the ceiling. Pause for a breath. Hug your knees into your chest. Grab onto your right knee, or right shin rather. Try to hug your knee closer to your chest and extend your left leg out long onto the floor. Take one more breath here. Bring Bring your left hand onto your left hip to try to keep it grounded. Right arm can go wherever it wants. We're going to take big circles with your right leg. Extend your right leg out so it hovers above your mat. Open your right leg out wide to the side. Knee back to your chest. Again, stretch your leg forward, wide, knee to chest. Forward, wide, knee to chest. 2 more. Keep your back on your mat here. Maybe your circles can't be quite as big to keep your back down. That's okay. Pause with your knee in your chest and take your circles in the other direction. Open wide, forward, knee to chest. Wide, forward, knee to chest. You got it. 3 more. Last one. Pause with your knee in your chest. Let your right foot plant down onto your mat. Then allow your right knee to open wide to the side for reclining tree pose. Right sole of your foot should be somewhere up against your left leg. Let your arms circle overhead. Fingertips might touch each other, they might not. More than anything, I want your shoulders to be relaxed and your hands to be relaxed. Take one more breath here. Slide your right hand under the back of your right thigh. Use your hand to lift your leg up. Plant your foot onto the mat. And plant your left foot onto your mat. Arms both come down along the sides of your body. And take a little scan. Notice any differences you might feel now, or maybe you can't really notice anything, and that's okay too. Hug both knees in towards your chest. Grab onto just your left shin and extend your right leg out long onto the floor. Keep your shoulders relaxed. Think about having just the world's tiniest little tuck of your chin so the back of your neck feels really neutral. A lot of times when we lay in this position, it's easy to throw your head back and really expose your neck to the ceiling, but that crunches onto the back of your neck, and that's really not what we're looking for here. Allow your right hand to come onto your right hip. Let your left arm relax wherever it wants to go. Try to keep the middle part of your back pressed down against the floor. We'll take circles with your leg. Let your left leg stretch forward. Open it wide to the side, knee to chest. You guys know it. Forward, wide, knee to chest. 3 more. The sides might feel really different in their mobility. And again, that's okay. You can notice without being judgmental. You'll eventually pause with your knee in your chest and take your circles in the other direction. Wide, forward, knee to chest. Wide, forward, knee to chest. 3 more. Pause with your knee hugged towards your chest. Left foot comes down onto the floor. Open your left knee out wide to the side for reclining tree pose. Circle your arms overhead. Your fingertips might touch. They might not. Let your shoulders relax. And take another breath here. And slide your left hand underneath the back of your left thigh. Lift your left leg up so your foot can plant onto the floor. Knee points up to the ceiling. And plant your right foot back onto the floor. Slide your hands down along the sides of your body. Roll all the way over onto your favorite side in the fetal position. And take a few moments here. Let your head rest in your arms. Use a free hand to press down against the floor and start to lift yourself all the way up to a seated position. Cross your legs. I'm going to sit on a block here just to help lift my hips a bit so that my knees are under my hips and not above them. You may need to sit on a bolster or something a little higher, or maybe you don't need anything at all. Really try to stack your spine so the crown of your head all the way down your back feels like a stack of quarters. Palms face down onto your thighs to help ground yourself. Eyes are closed. For the first time in our practice today, in a seated position, just notice now how your lungs can fill in every direction. As you breathe in, you fill front and back. As you breathe in, you fill side to side. And as you breathe in, you fill bottom to top. And try to fill into all of these spaces with every inhale. Remember that you don't have to suck the air in, but there are all kinds of accessory muscles around your lungs that get stronger as you work on this breathing pattern. And over time, it becomes easier and easier. You become a much more efficient breather. And it may sound silly because you breathe every day, every second of every day. But our bodies can get pretty lazy and start to just breathe in the amount of air that we need to keep going. That type of breathing actually is a big cause for things like chronic fatigue, insomnia, binge eating. All kinds of things are associated with that. So the more efficient breather you can become, an overall healthier lifestyle you can start to lead. Keep the rest of your spine really tall. Tuck your chin to your chest. As gently as you can, roll your right ear towards your right shoulder. And come back down to center. Roll your left ear to your left shoulder. Back down to center. Take it to the right. Center. Left. Center. This time as you go to the right, take a full circle. Lift your face all the way up to the ceiling. To the left. Chin to chest. One more full circle in that direction. And pause with your chin at your chest. Take 2 gentle circles in the opposite direction. And pause with your chin at your chest. Lift your head back to neutral. Good. Let your right fingertips just barely touch down onto the floor. Let your left hand reach to the ceiling. Roll your left shoulder down. Take a lengthening inhale for your spine. As you exhale, gently side stretch towards the right. So the goal is not to crunch your right side, but rather find a lot of length going through your left side. So try to keep your both shoulders relaxed. Push away from your right hand and try to keep your left hip down. Take one more breath. Use the strength of your core to peel yourself all the way back up to center. Let your left arm relax down. Good. Let your left fingertips barely come onto the floor. Reach your right arm up to the ceiling. Right shoulder rolls down. Take a lengthening inhale. Exhale, side stretch towards the left. Try to push yourself away from your left hand. Shoulders relax. Right hip is down. And maybe notice the tendency to kind of fold and look towards the floor. There's a time and place for that, but right now I want you to try to keep your shoulders stacked in line with each other. And take another breath. Use your core strength to peel yourself back up to center. Good, I'm going to plant a hand onto the floor so I can lean forward and ditch the block out from underneath my seat. Plant both of your hands onto the floor so that you can uncross your legs, and I need to scooch myself pretty far backwards so that I'm fully on my mat again. Make sure that your wrists are stacked right underneath your shoulders. You press into the 4 corners of your palms. Try to push yourself away from the floor. And try to externally rotate your shoulders. So even though your hands don't move, it's like you're trying to roll your hands out towards the sides, like you're trying to open a jar or something. Let's roll through a few cat-cows. As you inhale, open your chest, lift your gaze. Exhale, push yourself away from the floor, round your spine, tuck your chin. Inhale, open your chest, lift your gaze without compromising your low back. Exhale, push yourself up into your spine, chin to chest. 3 more like that. Inhale, open. Exhale, round. Inhale, open. Exhale, round. Last one. Pause back in a neutral spine. Let your big toes come together. Maybe open your knees out a little bit wider. Sink your hips towards your heels. Stretch your arms a little further out in front of you. I like to roll onto the pinky edges of my hands. Forehead towards the floor. Wide-legged child's pose to help get a lot of length in your spine. Help open your hips a bit more in this position. Take another breath here. And plant your palms onto the floor. Come all the way forward onto your hands and knees, and then all the way forward onto your belly. Good. Bring your arms out into a goal post position. Make sure your elbows are in line with your shoulders. We're going to come into a half frog position. So I'm going to roll onto my left cheek. And actually, I'll remove my headset for a moment because it's uncomfortable to be on my cheek like that. So from here, you're on your left cheek. Bend your right knee. Try to bring your knee all the way in line with your hip. Right foot is flexed. And see if you can actively relax your hip. Relax your glute. And take one more breath here. And slide your right leg back to meet your left. And start to turn over onto your right cheek. Bend your left knee. Try to bring your left knee in line with your left hip. Slow, steady breathing. Take one more breath here. Slide your left leg back to meet your right. Chin faces down onto the floor. Slide your hands underneath your shoulders. Press into your hands. Lift your torso up. Try to bring your knees together, heels together. Sit your hips all the way back to your heels, forehead towards the floor. Hands reach behind you towards your feet for a fetal position, child's pose. That helps stretch out your back in a bit of a different way than our previous child's pose. Really try to breathe in through the back side of your body here. I know a lot of students can get uncomfortable in this position because they feel like their breathing is compressed. And the biggest hurdle is trying to redirect your breath. And take one more breath here. Hands come underneath. Press into your hands so that you can lift your torso up. Hair got kind of wild there. That's okay. Go ahead, find your bolster or stack of pillows. I'm going to turn myself to face the long edge of my mat as we get into our full frog position. So this is a bit weird if you've never done it, a bit intense if you've never done it, but it's really healthy for your hips. So I'm going to have my bolster in front of me, and then you start to bring your knees wide. Try to have your toes face away from you, and it'll depend a bit just on where your hip mobility is. I'm going to spread my knees out a bit wider here, and eventually settle down onto my bolster. Now, the tighter your hips are, maybe you've got to stay up really high here, or you can find props that are a little bit higher for you to relax on. If your hips are really loosey-goosey, you might be all the way down on the floor. Just make sure you're not overdoing it. Another key thing here is that knees need to stay in line with hips. A lot of times students come forward a bit because that makes this feel a little bit easier. You really want to keep sinking your hips back, and settle in. Just try to breathe and actively release, relax in your hips. Our hips tend to hold on to our emotions and kind of get stored in all of the joints, all the little muscles that we have there. Because if you think about every time you get stressed, your body's natural reaction is to tighten up. And your hips are a big place that are able to do that. And it's a protective, instinctive thing to do. But it's cumulative. And if you're stressed out a lot and don't often find time to relax and release that stress, it'll just keep getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So if you're new to stepping into this practice, don't be judgmental about how this feels today. Releasing that can bring a flood of emotions, good, bad. You've just got to stick with it. Allow yourself the permission to release. And after a few breaths here, you might feel like you can get a little bit deeper into it. You'll slide your knees out a little bit wider, and that might not have been visible, but just a little tiny bit, I slid my knees further apart, and I can definitely feel it in my hips. So a lot of times in deep postures like this, you don't need these big exaggerated movements to make a difference. Can you give it 2 more deep breaths right here? Now, in postures like this, it's always the getting out that is actually the hardest part, at least for me. So there are 2 different ways that you can approach this. The first way, it's not the way that I'm going to do it today, but you can bring your toes back together as though you're in child's pose. Press into your hands, slowly peel yourself up, and push yourself back into child's pose. I prefer the tadpole exit, where I reach my hands out in front of me, and I try to suction cup my hands against the floor and pull myself forward. Whew. So I'm out of my hips there, and then I can press into my hands. Start to lift myself up, back onto my heels. Can ditch your props off to the side for a moment. Sweep your legs off to one side. Plant your feet wider than your hips. I like to bring mine to the edges of my mat. Hands plant on the floor behind you. Windshield wiper your knees side to side. Good. And pause in the center. I'm going to have my bolster nearby. You might choose to have blocks or something maybe bigger or smaller. You'll have to feel it out when you're there. I'm going to have my bolster by my side as I grab onto my thighs and roll down onto my back. Now trying to get into your hip flexors here a bit. Plant your feet onto the floor. Lift your hips up and slide whatever props you have underneath your sacrum. Let your hips relax down. So props will probably span from your butt to your upper back. Okay? If you start to feel any pain in your low back, you've gone too far, probably a bit too high, and you'll want to play with something that's down a little bit lower. Okay? Maybe you keep your feet on the floor, knees pointing up to the ceiling. I'm going to start to stretch my legs out long and bring my heels as wide as my mat. So it starts to stretch out your hip flexors. Again, no pain in your lower back. You might need to come down. Or if you're not feeling anything at all in your hips, maybe you need to be up a little bit higher. But remember, in restorative, we're not looking to get the most intense stretch you ever feel. You should feel weight in your shoulders, not in the back of your neck. If you've got weight in your shoulders, you're either rolling too far onto your neck or you're probably elevated a bit too high. So give yourself some time to settle in, arms relax down by the sides of your body. And take another breath here. If they're not already, plant your feet onto the floor. And press into your feet as you lift your hips. I'm going to push my bolster forward as I lower my butt down to the floor and bring my knees on top of my bolster for Shavasana. Any props under your knees will help take some pressure off your lower back. Or if you'd prefer not to have any props, you can get rid of them. If you want to take any other postures, now is a great time for it. Maybe a happy baby, a plow pose, whatever you want. Otherwise, meet me in Shavasana with your eyes closed. And try to relax your eyebrows. Relax your palms. Relax your jaw. Relax your shins. Relax your glutes. Allow your belly to hang loose. You can remain in Shavasana for as long as you'd like. But as you feel ready, you'll begin to reawaken your body. Allow your head to rock side to side. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe take circles with your wrists and your ankles. And stretch your arms overhead. Big morning stretch. Hug your knees to your chest. And roll to your favorite side in a fetal position. Pause there for a few moments and soak in the last bits of your Shavasana. And then use our free hand to press down against the floor. Help lift you up to a seat. Eyes can be closed, or perhaps they hold a downcast gaze as you sit tall. Allow your palms to come together. Press your thumbs against the center of your chest. Take a small bow. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. Thank you for practicing today. I hope you enjoyed class. If you have any questions, of course, you can leave a comment on this video. And I hope to see you next time.